when you think printing, you're probably thinking of sheets of paper going through a press. Might be a digital press or an offset press, but there are different types of presses now. This is one of those different types of presses. This is an ultraviolet flatbed press, which essentially it's digital screen printing. And what I mean by that is you can put rigid substrates on this, rigid materials on this, and it'll suck it down to the bed. The bed is 4 feet wide by 8 feet long, and it can be no thicker than 2 inches thick, and it will print everything in a 4 foot by 8 foot space. With this, you can print signs on yard signs, for instance. You can print signs that you might use inside, like on foam board. And what this type of technology allows us to do is, instead of doing it the old way of printing a decal that might then need to be mounted to a sheet of foam board or some other rigid material, gator board, a yard sign that would be corrugated plastic, we can print directly on it. It costs less, it's just as durable, if not more durable, and it takes less time. So it allows us to turn around jobs more quickly. And the way this works is we get whatever material we're going to print on, and we place it on the bed, and we orient it to this corner right here. And once it's oriented to this corner and square, we have a way of sucking it down to the bed. And once that's done, the machine comes down here. This is the print head right here. This green box in the middle, that's the print head, and on each side of it you see these gray ultraviolet lights. It comes down and it starts printing and just goes back and forth, and it prints about 1/4 of an inch worth every time it goes back and forth, and it goes across everything that's going to be printed. And then as it's printing, it's cured by these ultraviolet lights, so when it's printing, it's done, it's ready to go. There's no real drying time at all. But this is an ultraviolet flatbed press, and it's also called a UV flatbed. And we will send files from our graphics department over to this computer here, which is what we call the RIP. And a RIP stands for Raster Image Processing. That computer there basically tells this press what to print. So the files come over from graphics to this computer, then we tell it what to print here with this computer, and it's a great machine. We can print translucent inserts and backlit signs. We can print yard signs. We can print posters on, we can print banners on this. We can print posters on foam board. Lots of different types of things. As long as it's no bigger than 4 feet by 8 feet, we can print here. In fact, one of the things we've printed here, probably the most unusual thing we've printed, is we had a customer take all the hardware off of his door, and we put a door here on the flatbed and printed his logo directly on it so that it didn't have to be stenciled or hand painted on it. Looked great and was really easy to do.
So this is the Zonte Impressia, which is an envelope printing machine. Specifically, it's a variable data envelope printing machine, which allows you to input different information through an Excel spreadsheet, where you can do addresses, company names, and it's all built in and housed in this machine and in the software. That way you don't have to use external software like InDesign or any other data merge type system. That's one of the main reasons we purchased it. It also has the ability to do odd sized envelopes, different from the standard number 10, number 9 envelopes that you see basically everywhere. And in this instance, we're using a square 5.5 by 5.5 envelope, which is actually going to go in a 6.5 by 6.5 envelope. Very strange size envelope. That usually machines, we have other machines that will run envelopes, will not run these envelopes. You will jam the machine, or the machine will just not even try to run it in that instance. But this machine runs envelopes at a very strange way, to the fact where it runs envelopes flap first. So when it pulls it in, a lot of times a flap will come up, and in most envelope machines, if the flap comes up and you get this glue, it really messes up the machine. But in this machine, it doesn't really do that. It also has a very strange feeding mechanic to where it sort of fans everything out. I've actually already put all the information in the machine, so once once it hits the sensor and knows it's loaded, it's just going to start printing immediately. That's probably the best part about this machine is the simplicity to it. That and a lot of color matching software is very, very good.
Here we have another digital printer. This is our Epson 60-inch wide 8-color roll-fed printer. And when I say roll-fed, it typically is going to be printing things that substrates or materials that come on rolls. It could be vinyl for a banner. It could be decals or things like that that are adhesive back that might need to go on something else. But that is what this printer prints, and we will send files over to it directly from our graphics computers. It has its own internal RIP or raster image process, and it prints pretty much like, and the process works pretty much like it does in a little bit more complicated fashion, but your desktop printer. You have your file on your computer screen, you send it to print, we have our file on our Mac, we send it to print, and it comes through to this machine and it starts printing. It can print on just an ongoing roll of material, for instance banner material, and if it's a really long printing job, then down below on the front side of it there is a take-up reel so that the material that's been printed doesn't just fall on the floor. In other words, it rolls it back in and it comes off a roll on the back side here. The material crosses over a heating element that heats it to a certain level, an optimum level that is required so that it retains the ink as well as possible, and then it goes through the printer. As you can see, the print head's going back and forth as it advances through the machine, as the material advances through the machine, and then it goes back over another heating element that helps cure it and dry it, and then once it's done, it will be taken up on the take-up reel. From there, we take the take-up reel off over to a really wide cutter, zip cutter, and we will cut it down to smaller pieces and then finish it from there. And this is a 60-inch wide printer. It prints in 8-color high fidelity. It's beautiful printing, and it is a really good, valuable printing resource that we have here.